Привет, друзья! В эфире Agile Friday. Меня зовут Евгений Лабунский, я управляющий партнер компании Scrum Украина. И сегодня у меня в гостях Томас Joham. Он Senior Agile Coach в Raiffeisen Bank International. И мы будем говорить про Agile в банкинге. Вот такая у нас сложная тема. Hi, Thomas.
Hi.
You know, when I start speaking about Agile in a bank with my friends or with my IT colleagues, they make the eyes like this. So, what? This bureaucracy stuff works agile? Seriously? You seriously working with them? What they gonna do? Why they have to have this agile? How they are making it? So the people like even don't understand what are they trying to push out. So why agile in a bank? What is the high kind of sense of urgency, let's say like this, for agile in a bank?
Yeah, no, Shenya, in last years the industry completely changed because there is a lot new competition. It's fintechs, a lot of smaller companies attacking like established banks, so to say, on their core market. So they are faster in delivering things. They deliver more the things what the customer really wants. So what the banking industry is going under at the moment, it's the discovery of the customer need again. And basically, what does a super fancy system help you as a bank if nobody is using it, right? If there are the wrong features in. Also technically, right? We need to be on the edge what people want to have. It's contactless payment, it's like cross-border money transfer. And here I think what we discovered in our group is Agile is a way of really putting the customer back into the center and really integrate them in the process of delivering and creating new products which are amazing and really addressing their needs. And this is, I think, what we understand as Agile, you know, driving products which the customer need on a fast pace, bringing them to the market, delivering them to the customer, and get immediate feedback from them. And it's a completely new way how banking is interpreted.
You know, my sister, she's been working in the banking, I believe, for last 25 years. And when she asked me, what are you doing? I've told her, I'm changing the banks. Because like most of the customers are related to the banking. She told, okay, that's a 100-year or more history of the banking industry in the world, right? So why they have to change something on the top? Because the people is actually understand bank as something pretty safe. You can put money there, don't touch it, or touch it like in the secure way, because bank should ensure that you are not touching the money, your money in not secure way, right? Because the bank is responsible for your money. As soon as you bring it there, they cannot allow you to lose it, right? So, and the really challenge is, I believe, to rethink how the system should work, because people usually presume that the bank is for the safe, and all of the funny stuff on top of the bank can be made by the small companies, right? What is the real competition on the market in Europe with the small companies? How many startups, maybe you know something, started in the banking area? Because this looks like something is going on around the banks. They're still so big, they're still profitable, they're still earning a lot of money.
Yes.
Right? And there is not really the feeling of sense of urgency that someone is start eating your gross margin.
Yeah, maybe at the moment we are still doing very good. So if you look on the bank's balance sheets, they did quite good work in the past to reduce risk, really trying to get stability in after the crisis. But nevertheless, most of the banks are universal banks. You know, they offer a whole load of banking products, and it's not only loans, it's investment products, also mobile apps. You know, I mean, banks developing their mobile apps themselves or with close partners. I mean, you would never think basically that banks are going into those fields. Also we get more and more an IT company, you know, we have advanced analytics, big data, there is so much going on in the technical field, and also on the business side, you know, there are new technologies and business tries to think, how can we use this to get better, to get more efficient, to bring those things to the market to serve our customer, because as you rightly said, we have the trust of our customers to store their money, to work with their money. We still should not lose this. I mean, this is a core thing of a bank. Nevertheless, we need to be on the pulse, because the small companies with, I don't know, startups like 20, 30 people, they can move so quick, they can react on market changes in a much, much quicker way than a huge corporation can do. If you have like 50,000 employees in Europe and Central Eastern Europe, I mean, you're not changing that quick if you have the whole lot of history. And many banks did a lot of things very right in expanding, in creating businesses, getting to new markets, stability and that thing. But still, you have the small companies which are really focused on a niche. Mm-hmm. And in this niche,
something very specific.
Very specific. For example, secure contracts on blockchain or big data analytics. You know, they're really specific in one thing, like integrating core banking system to an analytical layer, for example. And if you specialize in this one thing, you have a huge knowledge there, of course, and you are quick in implementing it. And as a bank, and if you're present in more than one country, you have maybe also technical debt or technical complexity, which is very high. So the small companies are much quicker. And on the long run, maybe not now, but on the long run, they will, of course, eat market share of our companies or of the big banks. Just look at Revolut in England, yeah, or number 26 in Germany. I mean, they managed to gain more than 1 million customers, yeah, in 3 years. By not
we have an example in Ukraine, Monobank. They've got 500,000 of customers in a year.
But not offering any fancy thing. But it's, I mean, N26 basically started with a very easy account where you can transfer money, yeah, instantly to another N26, yeah, account. Yeah. I mean, it's not basically rocket science from the technical perspective, but how they have done it, yep, and they made it mobile available, account opening in 8 or 10 minutes. I mean, this is a huge benefit. I mean, if you are a customer and you need to go to a branch, wait 1 hour or even longer and sign lots of papers, yeah, or you do it with your mobile phone in 8 minutes, it's all about convenience and how the customer feels, you know. And sure, then in addition, it comes the products you offer or the, yeah, possibilities you offer for yeah, the clients.
They actually start bringing another customer experience, right?
Yes. So it's a whole different customer journey,
absolutely,
you know. And all those new methods, like if it's agile methodology, if it's design thinking, this is all now also has arrived at the banking level, because we experiment a lot in the company I'm working in with those cooperations with fintechs or with design thinking, creating new customer journeys, putting the customer really again into the center of the organization. Because a bank should serve the customer in a certain way, right? Yep. And we need to offer things which the customer really needs.
Yeah, so the current market addressing a lot of the challenges to the banks, and the bigger organization is, the more challenges it has, right? So it really works in any industry. So let's speak about your experience in the challenges, right? So when you're starting the Agile transition or any other transition, because like under Agile in general, we understand kind of the significant change in the way the people works. So what is the top 3 challenges you see on the beginning of the transformation?
I mean, the crucial thing in the beginning is for sure to have a proper vision in place. Where do you want to go? Because this is like if you develop a new product and you don't know what for you do it, most likely the result will be different when you, so instead you have a clear vision what you have. I think if anyone wants to start an Agile transformation, I mean, not related only to banking, I think it's valid for all the companies, is you need to really think about what you want to achieve in the end. because you're optimizing for speed of delivery and customer focus. So you need to think about what it means to transform into an agile way and then set up a proper transformation strategy. Because I made the experience, we have a lot of history in the organization I'm working in, more than 100 years, and we want to preserve our values, but still we want to go in the agile direction and get faster, more customer oriented and so on. So I think the combination of those things and having a proper vision in place, really having a dedicated team as well who is driving it, because it's many people underestimate it, it's a lot of effort. So you really need to have people who take care about this, who are passionate about this, who really also take the people with you. You know, I mean, you can make a transformation overnight and say tomorrow we are agile. It doesn't really pay off, and the customer also don't feel it, you know. And if you transform in a slow way, it takes maybe longer, it's more effort, but it's more sustainable. And I think an agile transformation should be a sustainable transformation to make first also the bank more efficient, but put the customer into the center and deliver products which are needed on the market.
You know, I right now just opened it at one of the last State of Agile report, and actually the financial services is the second area of applying the Agile in the world. So it's 17 of respondents told that they've worked in the financial services while the Agile implementation. What is really interesting here that, like, most of the people saying that the reason for adopting the Agile is accelerating software delivery, managing priority, increased productivity, and better business IT alignment. And actually what they've got at the end, right, that's not really what they've been taught on the beginning, right? So the most thing that actually works is the project visibility. So they start discovering the visibility in general and changing the priorities and business IT alignment. And I believe one of the very pain points in the huge organization is how the business works with IT, right? Because we usually say that there is the business and they are doing the business. Most of the people have no idea what they're doing, but they're inventing the new products for the market. Then they are organize it in some of the documents, give it to the IT, and usually IT is not even the black box. It's the black box on the surface, but when you open it, it's with brilliance inside, because it's very expensive. You know, the IT is very expensive. So they put the documents in this black box, a very expensive black box, and they are waiting for some outcomes at the end. And usually that's not what they would like to have, right? And what is your experience, from your experience, how to overcome this business to IT confrontation? Because I usually see it as kind of the confrontation. Business would like to have a customer in the center, but it doesn't mean that the IT would like or see the same benefits, right?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience and also from a lot of talks on conferences with other banks, financial institutions, software companies, business and IT usually they speak different languages, right? I mean, I think it's natural and it's nothing bad about that in that sense.
And usually in an organization we have translators from business language to IT. So we have someone in the middle who's speaking with the business and then translating it to IT.
So what I realized in my experience is one of the crucial things in an agile transformation is transparency. It's not about hiding something or making an error and not saying I did an error and I'm sorry about that, but it's really transparency, making visible what you are doing, what you're working on, where the problems are. Because only if they are visible, you can see it. This is the first point, right?
But this is very interesting. Let's speak about visibility a bit, you know, because the big organizations, they're not really built to have a visibility inside. They actually built to make the local sub-optimization in departments. And the whole system is not really visible. And when we bring this visibility stuff in front, saying, guys, let's be transparent to each other, let's speak friendly, that's not kind of the nature of the people. That's not their real behavior.
It's not, the people are not used to that anymore. Yes. But I think what I encountered is, I mean, the beginning is very hard to get the transparency in, but as soon as you have transparency, people actually start liking it. And it's also a matter of setting the KPIs in the right way, right? Because if I just optimize KPIs in a way for tickets, for example, that you need to close 1,500 tickets a month, then of course everyone would just try to close tickets if the problem is solved or not, right? And I think what we actually doing is we really take care about proper goal setting and the vision, and really measuring the way how far are we going to the goal and are we going into the right direction.
Any toolkit for this? Huh? Setting the goals, any toolkit are you using?
Now we use the impact mapping method, for example. And we create impact maps with the business and IT people together, because this also relates to your question before, how to make them work together. It's really about creating a common understanding, what is the way or the goal we want to go to, and then determining the way how we can do it. It's like a hypothesis-based thinking approach, where we say we have certain hypotheses, how can we achieve this goal? And then we prioritize on that level and say which one is most crucial for us in terms of customer value or whatever it is in the end, and then this we tackle first. So we also say we create a transparency for top management, but also for the people who are working in the Agile teams, that they know they have a purpose of that what they are doing. Because everyone likes to know if this task is delivered, it has an impact to the bigger goal of the whole organization. And this motivates the people. And this creates also already a certain transparency that everyone knows, why do I work on this now? I mean, I'm not producing a report which I know that nobody is reading, yeah, because I know if I do this and I contribute to the bigger thing. And I think it's just human that we want to contribute to a common thing, bigger, to something bigger. And this is a first step actually, and it helps you in the realization of your projects in the end, because you know, you think in the beginning what you want to achieve. I mean, of course, this can change along the way, because you make a lot of learnings, you learn a lot of new things, you make your experiences, but still, you have a vision and a roadmap. So it does not mean doing Agile means not just I can do whatever I like to do. It's really like a thing what you need to think about in the beginning, and you invest in the beginning on this to have a smoother life later on. And related to your question before, how to overcome this IT business topic, I think it's crucial that the people really work together. I made the experience in the past that I had an Agile team with, I don't know, 25 people, for example, from business and IT. And in the beginning, they were always talking about, yeah, I'm from business, I'm from IT. And the longer they were working together, the more and more started to understand each other. Because they were, of course, fighting sometimes, but in the end, we had the experience that business people were explaining IT architecture and IT people were explaining business concepts, like if they would be theirs.
Yep.
And there was no split anymore between business and IT. And I think this is the way banks, financial institution, or every company who is doing it should go to really not separate, put everyone together in a team who is necessary to deliver the goal what you set in the beginning.
Whom you need to start on the beginning? So whom you need to have on board to start the Agile?
Yeah, I think my experience showed, I tried a couple of things in the past, right? We tried it from bottom up in really like island approaches. We had a few people who were interested in it and they learned about it and they just tried to implement it on their own in the teams, in the daily business. It was working to a certain level. And on a certain level, when you reach this one, you need to have also top management understanding. So it's basically a mixture of top down and bottom up, because you need the people who are on board who really want to do this, and you need also to understand, as the understanding from the top management, that this is a way we want to go to, and this adds some value to our organization, to our common good, and to the customer, in fact. Yeah. And I think what you need is people who are interested in it.
Or volunteers?
Volunteers who get knowledge, people who can drive this, who make their first experiences, who are not afraid of making mistakes, because in the beginning, of course, everyone makes mistakes, and I made as well a lot of them.
That's a question of environment, if environment allow to make the mistakes.
Exactly, but it needs to be basically an environment need to be created where people can really experience this. So Agile, there is no blueprint of Agile where you say apply this and it will immediately work for you. You need to find kind of your way to really apply it in that sense. And if you have this right mindset, you can basically apply it anywhere. If it is HR, if it is audit, if it is regulatory topics, like topics where anyone thinks, how can this work in an Agile manner? But Agile is a mindset topic. And I think it is working in every case if you find a way how to apply it right for your problems which you want to solve.
Yeah. Can you do the agile transformation without support from the bottom?
I mean, there are companies who try it actually, but it's a question if you're agile on paper or if you're really living it. And I think if you don't have everyone on board, and with everyone I mean the majority of people who are working on, and also top management and the management layers, I think it's not sustainable. Yeah? So I think every organization has an identity, every organization has an identity, and they need to find a way basically to integrate this way of thinking, this mindset, this culture basically into their organization, and then it will work.
You know, the best transformation I ever saw is actually happening when you have a lot of the people who's volunteering in this exercise, right? So you are trying to collect the people all over the organization, you are trying to get them on board, and you are trying to make the ability for them to make the things happen, right? Yeah. Any ideas, suggestions how to collect the volunteers in a big bank?
Yeah, I mean, I made the experience, there will be always some volunteers who really already thought long time before you came about those things, and then they say, now is someone there who really tries to do it, and then they will join.
Finally.
They will join you on that way. But in general, it is like what I encountered, what works best is if you explain the concept behind and what it is really about, and then you need to bring it in a way that the people understand and that they can make it theirs. Because if it is yours, it's not something what someone told you to do, because you can really shape it yourself in a way, and this works best. So make it theirs, and then let them make the experience and proper learnings, because it's an iterative improvement process. Yeah? I mean, I worked 6 years with one team, and we complained on a different level, but we still complained. But this is like the eagerness what everyone has to really improve on a day-to-day basis and to make it even better as it is now. And this is a way of culture and a way of thinking how to approach certain things. And this you can only achieve if the people really live this topic and really if it is theirs.
Yep. On the way of the transformation, you usually have a success and fails, right? So it's happening from time to time. What is your biggest success and how it happened, right? So what actually leads to success? And what was the biggest fail, if it was, and what actually leads to this fail?
Yeah, I mean, I start with the fail because I want to promote here a little bit also the error culture, which is usually not so easy to achieve, right? To people who really say, hey, I did something wrong, but I learned something out of it, so let's do it next time better. I mean, there is a lot of projects who think Agile means I can do whatever I want. I don't need to have a plan. I don't need to follow certain rules. And I can just do like this free-floating thing. And this can end then really dangerous because you don't have only the level of people who work in daily business who need to learn how to do things different, but it's also from the management point of view, steering, controlling, leadership, it's a different approach. It works a little bit different. And you need to give everyone the tools to do it. And if you don't do that, you encounter errors. But as long as you be transparent, you can identify the errors in the beginning. So what I had in the past usually was in the first time, we were not transparent enough. So we saw it coming, but we didn't see, we didn't honestly say, hey, yeah, we see that something might come, right? And this is something what people also need to understand. I mean, it's not a problem to say that there is something wrong if you say it early enough, right?
Yep.
Before you burned all the money and in the end you find out, oh, maybe it's not that what I wanted to have, right? Which adds to the question before, if you just define a business specification, drop it into a box of IT, and a year later you get something, right? And you say, oh, I meant it different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't help, right? So it's a lot about communication, transparency, and here you make a lot of errors in the beginning. I mean, everyone who works with Agile basically did that. Yeah. And even if you do it 10, 15 years, you will do something wrong and there will be something happen which is maybe not that what you thought of. But it's about people. You work with people, and if you work with people, everyone is different. Everyone needs a little bit something different to come on the way to the success. Which leads me to the second part of the question, biggest success. And what is necessary to go there. I think there is no patent recipe to say, if you do these 5 things, you will be successful. I think what is very important, what is also a learning from my past is, there are certain rules in Agile methods, but also in the mindset, which you should keep, which you should not drop. And if you do this, you're already on a very good way. Because there is this daily stand-up topic. There is the transparency topic with a board, either physical or technical. If you neglect one or the other, you start feeling it at a certain point. And then you need to have people who really say, okay, we found that out on a retrospective, this is maybe wrong, let's change it. And you need really to change on a constant basis and step by step. Many errors, what happen is also starting too big in the beginning. Like, of course, everyone has a supervision and lots of things in their head and they see the dream product.
Yeah, at the end.
And then the question should always be, okay, how do I start with the smallest possible thing? There is this concept of the MVP, most minimum viable product. And when you say, this is the minimum thing, minimum functionality, which I can go to the market to get feedback on, this gives you so much new insights where you can learn so much about it compared to you develop a year and then go to the market and find out that 80% is maybe not needed as you did it. And so you get more flexible in adjusting the needs of the customer and the things you prioritize for doing. So you can basically be more effective in terms of product development, but not only in development, because also in operation it works quite well.
You know, when the banks start speaking about the Agile, I don't know why, but the people start speaking from scaling perspective. On the first day, they are driven about the huge Agile scale, like you told, right? So they see a big dream at the end, everything works fine. And today, there are a lot of scaling frameworks. Some of them are scaling frameworks, the other one are descaling frameworks. Someone is saying we are scaling Agile, someone is saying we are scaling Scrum, whatever else, right? We have large scale Scrum, Safe, Scaled Agile framework, Scrum at scale, Nexus, Scrum of Scrum, right? So we have tons of them. Like, do you have any, like, your most, enjoyable tools from these frameworks? What you can say, I love to do this with my teams from this framework, and I really love to make this from that framework.
I really love when people understand the core principles about Agile in general, because what framework you use in the end or what part you use is just a matter of what you like most, as long as you have understood the basic principles and basic things. Because as you said, right, many people think about scaling already in the beginning. Yeah?
Let's scale.
It's like, let's build 15 teams, but we have not
Tomorrow.
even managed to do one. And I think one of the core principles is what everyone should be keeping in mind is start small, make it work, scale naturally. Because if it works, there will be more and more teams coming automatically. It's not like that you need to make the full-blown solution. And you take also out a little bit of risk if you start small, because you can experiment. You need to find your way as an organization. As I told you before, in the beginning, every company has an identity, everyone has a culture, and you need to find the right way how to deal with it. I mean, for some banks, less maybe works best. For some other banks, the Spotify model enriched with some less elements works great. But you need to find out what is the right thing for your organization, what addresses your problems. Because there is no blueprint, which is the interesting thing about it. Yeah? This is really start small, grow naturally, and deliver the right things and learn, make experience, because it's like all about experience.
So we can fairly say to the people who's watching this series, right? So don't use everything, right? Combine what you need for the framework you need, right?
Yes.
So and be step by step.
Understand what your things are which you want to achieve. Check around what you have in your industry, maybe in other industries, what they applied for maybe similar problems. Because only because like Spotify model worked at Spotify doesn't mean it works maybe in a banking group.
Yeah.
Or if you can do less and then you realize after 2 years that SAFe is maybe a better choice for the current problems. Thing is like, be open, focus on the core principles and then build it up on a natural basis. Find out what is the right thing for you. And then apply it and not be afraid to change it later again if you find out that it's not working anymore, or adapt it in that sense. Yeah?
You told that start from something small. I don't know if you had this in your experience, but I had in mine when we started with something small, and after that people told, "Ha, that's so small. Of course it works." So and they just disregard all of the achievements we had at all, so they destroy it on the organization level, all of the achievements of this small group. So, and actually I find out, it's probably a good discussion, that it's better to start with not something that is easy, and of course it's not from something super strategic, hard, big, that cover half of the organization, because that's a big elephant, you will not be able to eat it. But to start somewhere in this between middle and small, and start better with couple of stuff, so you can make the measurement, okay, here we implement this, here we implement this, that's what we have, right? That works better, that's works not so good, what we can change here to make it works better.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest, as we did in the past, we made pilots basically. We tried different things on different complexity levels to really find out where we can do which kind of method or thing. And then we needed to do assessment and refinement of everything. So it's a constant refinement process in that sense. But nevertheless, I mean, starting small, if you make a proper thought before what you want to achieve, even small things can have a huge impact. Yeah? It doesn't mean you need to invest millions just to be important, because this is like in the old hierarchies, the bigger the projects are, the more importance you as a person have in the recognition what you get. But in general, it is like, what I experienced is if you start with a small thing, you have an impact. And maybe it is discarded by the people who are looking at you and saying, yeah, it was not complex, it was obvious, and it would also have worked in another way. I mean, nobody can prove that it would have, right? Because you did it already in the new way of working. And I think every success what you have on the way makes the Agile movement stronger in an organization. Because there will be never everything working, even in the Agile way. And I think the sooner you deliver value to the customer or to the organization, then it grows automatically.
You know, I don't know if it's a problem in Austria, what's a big problem in Ukraine, the people don't know how to celebrate small wins.
It's also in Austria.
So they just, okay, that's a bullshit. That's a really small win. Let's wait for something big. But what is the big win, right? The big win is the combination of the small wins before. Then you have bomb at the end, and you celebrate, right?
Yes.
So the people don't know how to celebrate the small wins inside the organization. Actually, because the organization never allowed them to celebrate the common result, right? So they had their own small pieces according to their KPI. This is kind of refreshment of the thoughts inside the organization, how we can celebrate our achievements and make it public.
Yeah,
right,
I completely subscribe to that. In Austria, we have the same issues, so it's not easy to bring it back to the people's mind that they did something great, even though it was a small thing.
And we sometimes even don't know how to give a feedback that they've made something great, right? Like, that's not enough just say you made a great job, because it's not the celebration, right? So you have to understand that that should be something else. The people should celebrate from the inside.
I think you need really actively working on this.
Yep.
Because what we do in the team I'm working in, we are like lots of agile coaches, and we basically teach the people how to do this. But we needed also to find the mechanisms for ourselves, how to appreciate each other and say, hey, you did something great here. So we introduced the Kudo box, for example, Kudos box. Mm-hmm. We have cards there in our office, and everyone can basically write personal messages to a colleague. And we have team days where we open these messages and read it out loud to really say thank you for certain things. Because if you don't give feedback immediately, you forget about it, right?
Yep.
So it's like you need to say it really in the point in time when it occurred, or write it down on a Kudo card and put it into a box. Because if you have a team day every 2-3 months, you have forgotten most of the things which occurred. And there can be even small things. Hey, yeah, thank you that you just helped me facilitating this training. Or, hey, it was so super cool. You planted some new seeds in my head, how I can maybe solve the problem in future, or how I can do that differently. And it's very, very important on an Agile transformation to really give feedback and bring this feedback culture into the organization as well.
Basically, all of the Agile frameworks is built around the feedbacks, right? That's a lot of the feedback loops.
I completely agree, but the framework itself doesn't help.
Yeah,
you need really to work on it in an active way.
You know, most of the people in the banks struggling with 2 questions when the transformation starts, if they're using Scrum, right? Who need to be the product owner? And that's the question. Who is the good product owner in a bank? And who is the good Scrum Master in a bank?
I can say now it depends, because it's always right.
No. Of course it depends. Because, you know, with the Scrum Master, it's always mind-blowing stuff when you start making the training in any organization and you start explaining the Scrum and you say, okay, in Scrum we have 3 roles. We have product owner, we have Scrum Master, and we have team. And then someone in the group will raise the hand or will write down somewhere the question to put it on the wall. And the question is, where is the project manager? And you're saying there is no project manager in Scrum. People say, why? There is who's managing, right? Who's managing everything? And that's blowing their mind, right? So the product owner is maybe even easier than the Scrum Master. So who is the good product owner in a bank? Of course it depends. And who might be the good Scrum Master? It also depends.
No, I mean, it depends on the strategy, but what we mostly observed also in other banks is business people are good product owners if it's about business products. I mean, if it's about really an IT-only thing, then maybe a business person would not be the right choice. Could be, if it's a business person who is very interested in this and has also IT knowledge. But most of the product owners come from the business side. Because they need to know what need to be built to make the customers happy. Mm-hmm. And from the Scrum Master perspective, I think that there is no easy answer to it, yeah, because this with the project managers, as you said, is I think every organization encounters this problem. And I think the interpretation of the roles, project manager, whatever, business analyst, team head, is very serious in the old way of working.
Yeah.
In Scrum, basically, or in Agile way, you should define yourself by what you can deliver to the common good of the organization, right? So I think the capabilities and the strengths of project managers you still need, yeah? Sure. You maybe don't need the role in that sense anymore.
Yeah, you shouldn't
but
if you
have a certain complexity to solve the problems, if you have multiple teams, if you talk about scaled Agile with tribes of 150 people, you need this capability of aligning, of organizing, of in general things which project managers are good in doing. So the capability is still needed. So it can be that the project manager is a good Scrum Master, but it can also be that the project manager is not. It depends how the values are lived, basically, and how the capabilities fit to the problems you want to solve in an end-to-end way with your team. It can also be a normal IT person or a business person who is a good Scrum Master. It depends always on the skills what you want to have in your team.
Also, the good question is, it's some kind relates to the product owner, right? Because it's owner of the product, right? And how to actually identify the product? How to understand what is the product? Because I can tell you the story, for example, from one of the network operator, right? So the product for them is a seller of phone calls, but it's not the product anymore. Right? The tariff plan cannot be the product by itself. It's not selling anything or bringing anything to the customer. Customers stop calling and sending SMS already, right? We are using Viber, we call in Viber, Messenger, wherever we want, right? So we decrease their gross margin a lot by stopping the calls. So that cannot be the product, or the post office product. If we're saying that this is the post letter, okay, for the next 100 years, I believe there will be no post letters at all, sooner or later, right? So this product, we are killing this product right now. So is there any secret or any suggestions how to lead business to identification of the product? Or what is the tools they might apply it, or what is the tools you are using right now to make them understand that their previous understanding of the product is not so really valid?
Yeah, I think there is, I mean, of course, there is no secret which I can tell you, which you don't already know. But I think I encountered a very good example, because I recently have been in America, in New York, and because you said postcards and letters will be dismissed, yeah?
Yep.
It gets less and less and less.
Yep.
But what we found there was a startup which is called My Postcard, and they just invented a digital version of a postcard, and it's a huge success.
Of course.
It's a German company, and they just did a simple thing but made it in a new way. Mm-hmm. And I think this can be an example of reinventing, yeah. And I think banks need to reinvent themselves, because I mean we are in 2018 now, almost 2019, so we cannot do banking as 1980. It doesn't work like this anymore. But still, there are certain things which banks are good at, and I think you constantly need to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, to make it happen, you know, the bank is like a huge train, so you have to stop it and turn another way around, right? So, and you cannot just stop it like a small company. Today we stop and start examining another ideas, right?
Yeah, but if you're constantly open and in contact with your customers and have a close relationship to them, yeah, it's easier to find out, yeah? Because use the example what you mentioned with the telecom operator, yeah? If they would talk to the customers what they would need, yeah, then they can maybe also find new ways of making revenue by adding other services, going into other fields which they are good at, which is related to that what they are already doing, which they maybe don't know yet. But I think you need to be open and really listen to your customer and take it serious what they tell you. And then you can reinvent yourself on a constant basis, because this is needed. The market is spinning so fast in that years, and it's getting faster and faster.
Any fancy tools bankers using for collaborating with the customers or identifying the customer needs?
I think one of the problems is that we always think too complicated.
Yeah.
Because if we say, okay, let's ask the customers about this and this and this, we think about like huge market research things or surveys or huge expensive things. But I think if you think about a new product which you want to launch and you don't know if it's flying or not, the easiest way would be just create a prototype with minimum viable product thinking, lean startup thinking. Even if it's on paper, go on the street and just ask the people. You don't need to make like a fancy market research with 100,000 people participating to find out if it's good or not. And I think what in general we as humans do in recent years, we have so many new tools, technologies available, but we try to make it always more complicated than it would be maybe necessary. And I think here, try the easiest way to get some feedback on your product. If you're an entrepreneur or a bank, I think there is no difference in that sense.
You're really right about this overcomplication in the companies. I've had a great example just today in one of the bank. The people told, like, for our audit department, we need to draw how our people works, so they can understand. If NBU came, we can show for them that's how our system works, that's how everything works, that's how we ensure that everything is secured and stuff around this. And I've just drawn it on the paper. They told, no, that's too simple. So I said, so of course, like, and they've told me, you think in a very simple way. And I've told, of course, I'm thinking in a simple way, because all about Agile is to make the things simpler that you have right now, right? So why to make it very complicated? So try to think simpler, right? And I believe that's one of the biggest challenge. We start working with the teams to make them think in the simple way, because like they start building the huge ship from the early beginning, right? They are starting to build a big bus without like ability to build a very small children car to drive around the house, right? To understand, is it really needed to drive?
I mean, there is a famous example, like a sketch, which you can find on the internet. It's like, I want to go from A to B. So first you have maybe a skateboard. In the second iteration, you found out a skateboard. I mean, it led you from A to B, but maybe it's not enough. So you have a roller, you know. Then you iterate again and say, yeah, maybe bicycle would be good. Then you come to the motorbike, and then in the end you have a cabrio. And this is kind of a product iteration thing. You don't know maybe in the beginning that you want to have a cabrio, but you know that you want to have from A to B. And what would be the easiest way from A to B? Yeah, you can start with a skateboard and then just make it grow in a way that you experience what is really needed.
Well, by the way, on the trainings when we show this picture, this specific example, we show how to not build the MVP. You know why? Because if you take a look to the picture, you will see that you're changing the architecture from all the time. You started with a small skateboard, then you have something on 2 wheels, then you have something with pedals and 2 wheels, and all the time you're changing the architecture significantly. But this is the case.
Then you have a different picture in mind that I had.
Yes. But then that works for the startups, because in the startup you may try this, doesn't work, okay, let's try this, that also doesn't work, let's try this. Oh, that's what we need to do. 4 wheels driving car.
But why doesn't it work for a big bank?
Yeah, it works for a big bank. The problem of complexity thinking, right? We think very complex. So we start thinking, okay, the customer need an Airbus 380. No, customer would like to travel from point A to point B. Maybe it's okay to have a small flight, right? Cessna. You shouldn't study to fly Cessna for 7 years. So you can just spend 72 hours in the flying academy and you can go. But for Airbus, you need to spend a lot of years studying or preparing before someone will allow you to sit in the cabin of the real flight, right? But the people saying, okay, but the customer need a big flight, right? How to unbreak this thinking?
There's no blueprint, I guess, right?
That's a complex domain. No blueprints, no metodichka, right?
Yeah. I mean, how to break it? I think you need really to teach people to think in a simple way, to make a simple solution. Because if you test a mobile app, for example, you don't need to develop it first that you can test it. You can start with pen and paper, ask people how it looks like. And then you just grow with the thing and with the learnings. You just need to make step by step. I think many people take too big steps and forget like steps in between. It works maybe for some iterations, but sooner or later it catches you. And I think what my experience is, you need really people, agile coaches, for example, who really work in a tangible way with the teams. You need to be there to really help the people when the things occur, because if they tell you a week later this happened and you tell them then that it would something what you have could done instead, then it's too late. Mm-hmm. So what I try in daily work is really work with the people who are experiencing it on a daily basis in a constant interactive way to really help them overcome this challenge. Because when we sense, because I mean I sense it because I have experience in the domain. If I see that people start thinking complex, you just say, hey guys, don't be too complex. Let's come down again to the basic thing what we want to achieve here. And I think this is one of the crucial things if you want to make it work in general. I mean, it's one of the pieces which you need to do to make it successful in the end. Working with the teams. Yeah.
The previous complex thinking is actually lead that in the banks you usually have hundreds of IT systems.
Yes.
The system is so much complicated that there is no single person who knows how everything works, right? So that's really a challenge to find this guy or this girl. So, and when you're starting building the product inside the bank, you might find out yourself in a situation that for good agile team, you have to have 20 people on board. Because to make this, let's say, online banking, you need to have guys from front end, API, business layer, core system banking, multiple services. And of course, you know, in this small multiple services, there are not a lot of people who's managing them, right? So that's 1-2 guys in the whole bank who knows how it works. All of the rest have no idea, right? And you have to have 20 plus people in one team to manage this, right? How can we handle this?
Yeah, I think it's first you need to find out who are those people or who are those skills, what you need on your team to the problem related to the goals what you have set. If you found out you have those people, then you should try to get them in your team on a minimum 70% dedication. Because otherwise you have the switching costs of if you switch a lot of domains, it makes you slower in that sense. And Agile optimizes for speed, yeah? Yep. So we cannot afford to make ourselves slower by the decisions we take, yeah? And I think you need to have a product owner who understands what he wants to build. You have to have analysts and so on who help him, because the bigger the teams get, the more difficult it is for the product owner to specify all the stories, finding the right language, the bigger the topic gets, right? And I think it is no problem that it is working when you have an end-to-end slicing, which is one of the hardest things you can have, because the organizations are not built in a way that you can slice end-to-end, but this should be the target picture we should go to. So it might be that compromises need to be taken on the way to this picture.
So going step by step.
Going
right?
step by step, yes. I mean, if it's really only one person who has knowledge about the system, then it's good. that you have the transparency now that this is only one person and it's needed from multiple teams, because then you can build up the capability again and share knowledge, which is a key cornerstone of Agile as well, right? That you share knowledge within the team, that you can replace others or at least help others to fulfill their tasks. Yeah? Because I think it's a common goal. This is what everyone also needs to understand. Yeah, either the team wins or the team fails. It's not like I won, he was wrong. Yeah, it's about the team, and the team is only successful if everyone delivers his part.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I usually say is that there is no dependencies in the team. There is a common work that have to be done for the common result.
And everyone need to assist each other to make the goal happen what you have set for the sprint.
You know, the second part of the complication in the banks, even you have this team and it, let's say, it works great, right? Around this team, usually IT team or any IT product that touch the customer, you have a lot of support roles. Let it be legal, let it be, I don't know, risks, IT security, compliance, right? Who have to deal with these people, right? Two questions. Who is the most challenged from all of them? So who is the hardest to jump in agile mode? And how to make them, how to help them works agile?
I think it's not related to any field what you have mentioned. I mean, it depends on the people involved, but what works best is if you integrate them as good as possible. Because now the legal people or compliance people, they have it quite hard because they don't see what's happening in there. Or security. Security need to ensure that everything is secure, right? But they don't know what you're doing on a daily basis unless they are involved. And what my experience is, what works best is if you take them with you on this journey of transformation, because they want to enable you to do your things in a secure manner, right? So you also need to respect their part of the big pie. And we integrate them directly. We try to keep them as close as possible. I mean, of course, there are things where you need them on board on a 100% basis, but there are periods where you maybe have 10-15% that they just come by and check if everything is fine. And if they are part of the team, they understand what's going on. There is transparency created, there is trust created, and then it's not the fear that the team where I was myself part of is doing something, so to say, stupid in terms of any of these things. So I think keep them as close as possible and try to integrate them in your journey, because they are just people and they have their job to fulfill, they have their targets, and usually they don't mean it bad, you know, it's just they just want to also enable you in a sense that it works out.
I really find out that they just don't understand how to work in the new manner.
Yeah,
so
I mean, in the beginning, it's maybe weird, and everyone has questions in the beginning.
For example, risks. They usually predict the risk when they see the whole picture that they would like to have at the end, right? So someone came with the project, they analyze this project and say, okay, we are okay with this project, or we have these comments. In Agile, you're not coming with the big project, right? You're splitting it into the small pieces, and then it's very hard for such people to understand what is the risk inside the small pieces.
Yeah, but this is exactly the thing, what Agile tries to do. It tries to break up the big risk into small things which are digestible, right? And this is the good thing. If you have them on board in this way, in the small bits and pieces,
I believe this
you don't have the huge risk, and you don't need to be afraid of.
That's the breaking moment when they start understanding. When you split to the small pieces, the risk is lower than you analyzing the big piece. Because it's easier to understand what is inside the small box rather than in the big box, right?
Yeah, I mean, this relates completely to the transparency topic, right? Try to be as transparent as possible so that everyone sees it. Do not hide anything. And this is the way to get more efficiency and more speed.
Community of practices.
Yeah, very interesting topic.
Very interesting topic. How many communities of practice? What is the communities of practice you suggest to run, and maybe what is the good start of the community of practice?
I mean, what we definitely we have lots of community of practices because we found out in early stages. We have had it even before we started the big transformation, because it was kind of this community of the volunteers, as you said before. Community of practices are very important to exchange the experiences made. Agile is a lot about experiences, about things. You can deal with things in 10,000 different ways, and it maybe is still correct. But just to exchange how it works, we have it for Scrum Masters, we have it for product owners, we have it for team members in general, we have also for Agile coaches, community of practice. I mean, they are anyway all in one team, but still we try to exchange among each other because we are a big bunch of people. And we also have a lot of countries where we operate as a bank, and we also connect the countries with their Agile coaches, with their facilitators, to just exchange on different kind of problems, experiences, and we use various different things from it, virtual communities, face-to-face meetings, business trips, like for example mine today here, and this is very important because it's about communication, it's about working together, and as I said before, only the team wins in the end. Yeah? You cannot do an Agile transformation without the team and without knowledge exchange, and everyone makes different experiences, and this is just enriching the whole transformation.
You told that the Raiffeisen is implementing in the different countries the Agile practices in different banks, right? Are they using the same approach, or are they using the custom approaches? Is there any leader in implementation, or like differences, right? Who's just started? Someone is already doing the great job.
Yeah, I mean, we have one country who started a little bit earlier, so they are a little bit ahead. They are also using a different scale framework because they found out for them it works best if they use less after they tried safe. And what we did basically is we tried to find a model for ourselves which suits our identity, our culture, which we have in the banking group. And this is what we try to implement. But we are not implementing in a way that we say everyone just need to do exactly like we said. We created a transformation impact map, like with top goals, what we focus on, what we want to achieve. And this is where we then say to each country, please find your way of implementing it in your organization, because as you can imagine, every country in Eastern Europe is different. Everyone is dealing with different problems, everyone has different strengths, different weaknesses, and you cannot just make a uniform way of doing it, but still it should follow like an overall frame what we want to achieve. And this adds a little bit of complexity, but still it's a very interesting case how you can do it. And we managed in the past to really make the people understand what value it can achieve for the whole group.
People usually ask one question when they start Agile: what they will have at the end. And of course, me as Agile coach, I'm saying about the speed and the business integrity and the better understanding of the customer and the integration of the customer inside of organization, better common understanding of the sense of what you are doing, right? But the business, they're speaking with money and the customer satisfaction, right? In your overall experience, the banks or other organization in your experience that started making Agile, what was their benefits? Outside of time to market, that usually happens when you put the people full-time in the one team, right?
I mean, Richard Branson said, take care about your people and your people will take care about your customers in the same way. And I think this is a very important note from him. I think what you can see, organizations who did Agile transformations, they have happy, reliable workforce who are into the topic, they love to work there, they are really passionate about it, and I think this is a company's biggest asset, right? Because if you have happy employees who really deliver things which the customer needs, you have a combination which makes everyone happy, the customer, the employee, and you as company, because you will have the revenue automatically. And I think this is what we should strive for.
Any links between NPS and Agile? Can you say, when we start implementing Agile, our NPS start growing up? We can drop this question.
Drop this question.
Let's drop this question, right?
I mean, I would have a stupid answer to this, but drop it.
What is the stupid answer? It's just for me. It's not for the.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Good. What about the project office at the end? Every bank have a project office. Project office, there is the head of PMO, project managers, but right now you are building the teams around the customers, Agile teams, Scrum teams, other teams. What's happening with the project office?
I think it depends how you define your transformation, right? I mean, I think even if you do impact mapping, you have KPIs on the impact maps, on the goals, someone need to have an overview about things. If you're a big organization, you need somehow also kind of a balancing, what you do next, kind of a prioritization, kind of a review. I think the capabilities of the people are needed in future as well, but maybe interpreted in a different way. Because we work closely, for example, with our project office to enable Agile projects with a new governance model to start working, giving them the right environment to work. Because I mean, by all that means, we should not forget, I mean, we are a bank, we have a regulator watching us closely. We need to deliver certain things. We can just decide the way how we deliver the things. And I think this is, we need all the capabilities what we have, I think, in that.
The last question for today, but the last but not the least. Tell me your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more steps to start the Agile transformation in the bank. Some random bank, no-name bank, you came there as Agile coach. What is your steps to some point in time you will pass in this bank?
I think in the beginning you need to have a small amount of people who start working on this transformation journey, working with the top management, getting to know what are the goals we want to achieve, how we want to gonna do it, big bang approach, sustainable approach, make clear what you want to have, and then build up Agile coaching capability, work with the teams in a tangible way on tangible results.
On the Agile coaching capabilities, you mean build the Agile coaching competence inside?
Yeah, build competitive as people inside who have knowledge about that, get help from external, but build this capability to be able to work with the teams together on the tangible results. Start small, put everything end to end together, what you need to deliver the product. Work with the teams in a tangible way, start small, and then scale naturally and spread the knowledge in the organization with user groups, with a lot of knowledge sharing sessions, awareness sessions, and transparency, and then trust is created, and then it should work automatically.
Cool. Thank you very much for today's conversation. See you next time.
Thank you very much, and have a nice holiday and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Друзья, спасибо за просмотр. Надеемся, вам понравилось. Будем ждать ваших комментариев с вашей обратной связью. Также хотим узнать, что бы вам было интересно услышать в следующих выпусках, с кем пообщаться, кого пригласить и на какую тему. Также подписывайтесь на нашу страницу и на наш канал в YouTube, ставьте колокольчик, лайкайте это видео и шарьте его везде. В следующий раз будет еще круче, еще лучше, еще выше, еще веселее и еще глубже. Надеемся, вам всем понравилось. С прошедшим Новым годом или с наступающим, потому что я не знаю, когда эта передача выйдет. На этом спасибо вам. До новых встреч.